Welcome to Voices of Hope. I'm your host, Omar Kenyatta Clark, and this is a brave space, a space where vulnerability meets courage, and where real stories of resilience come to life. Each episode will bring you powerful conversations with people who face some of life's hardest challenges and turn them into sources of strength. We believe each story has power to heal, to inspire, and to remind us that we're never alone in this journey. Whether you're seeking hope, looking for inspiration, or simply need to know someone else has walked through fire and made it out, this is your space. Welcome to Voices of Hope. I'm Omar Kenyatta Clark. I'm your host, and today we have with us Eliot Lopez. He's an advocate, mentor, peer specialist, and community leader. After serving 30 years in prison, he made a commitment to rebuild his life and give back to his community. He is now proudly employed by the Center for Community Alternatives in downtown Brooklyn, where he helps transform lives and hope and help people find hope. Eliot works as a community engagement specialist, volunteering and collaborating with organizations such as the DEA, NYPD on harm reduction, the Department of Education, and other community groups across the 5 boroughs. Since his release in August 2022, he has received a full scholarship to Stony Brook University to study for his KSAC-T substance abuse counseling certification and became a member of the New York Peer Specialist Certification Board in Albany in October 2025. So congratulations on all that and welcome to the show.
Thank you. And welcome to the new society as well.
Yes, thank you. So, do you just want to, give the audience a little bit more about yourself?
Well, yes, as Omar mentioned, I'm formerly incarcerated. I was incarcerated at the age of 19, and through those difficult times of my incarceration, I basically educated myself in many ways through obtaining certain certifications
Mhm.
and just basically bettering myself for when I get out in society. And that's one thing that I wanted to accomplish, and I believe I have,
Yeah,
although I believe there's more room for improvement in life and in everything you gain and learn from. And these are things that I choose to do, not only for myself, but also to help and restore the communities that I once at one time as a young man also affected, in a way
yeah,
where because of my criminal thinking, I also hurt my community. But now I'm here to restore it, help it, and give it hope, as Omar also has mentioned, and be that influence that I should have been when I was younger. And now I'm
yeah.
back.
Yeah, man. I love that you're really trying to give back to the community and restore the community. I really love that. That's because that's what Voices of Hope is building a community where um we rely on each other, we build each other up, and we support each other. So thank you for joining us today. Um and like I like to say that Voices of Hope is a brave space. So thank you for being brave. And we share our stories of resilience, times where, life really knocked us down and we had to get ourselves back up. So that's gonna be my first question. Um, do you mind just sharing um, about how you were able to go through your prison experience, how you were able to overcome it. Um, yeah, do you mind just going into that?
Well, no, definitely. Getting locked up at such a young age and not having experience with the justice system, because although I was in the streets, my my mind was in the streets, but my heart wasn't, you know,
Mm.
and being in the streets and trying to find a way out is a difficult thing. But going in is even more difficult. Especially, I weighed 128 pounds when I went in, you
Okay.
know, and those challenges came with physical intimidation.
Okay,
So
so
I had
that's
a,
like once you were in prison, the other people in there were physically intimidating you.
oh yeah, definitely, you
Yeah.
know, because you puny, you skinny, you know, and these are things that a lot of the people that think about making bad decisions and choices in life should think twice about who not who they're only gonna face as far as the uniform, but who they're gonna face with other uniforms. And those uniforms are the same people that's wearing the same color as you. The ones that could be a threat to you as well. You know,
Okay.
either through trying to make you join gangs, trying to extort you, trying to violate you, trying to sexually assault you, whatever it is, you know.
Yeah, so you're saying like you have to be prepared for not just um the correctional officers in there, but also the other prisoners and people um who are also locked up in there.
Oh yeah, you know, I mean,
Yeah.
we call them either predators, abusers,
Yeah.
or so-called, as the slang is says, gangster, which I
Yeah.
believe
Okay.
that word is overused and is interpreted in the wrong way, you know,
Hmm.
because I don't believe in that. I believe that, you know, we all the same. And, you know, these are things that you got to take into consideration. Although I was a high school graduate and everything, going
Hmm.
into prison, since me being in the streets, I used to hear rumors about certain things that used to go in there. So my main focus was first, I got to protect myself. And then for protecting myself, I got to educate myself because this is going to be my social norms. I don't know when I'm going to get out, you know, because going in there with 30 years to life after pleading guilty because I went snitch. That's another story we could talk about later on. But,
Okay.
you know, I didn't actually do my crime. I was just present, but I wouldn't point the fingers out. So that's my situation in a way. But like I said, you could ask later on about my situation.
Yeah, if you
So,
want to share that, feel free. It's up
oh
to
no,
you. Whatever you're most comfortable with sharing, you can go for it.
not definitely, you know, and just to send a message out that, you know, when you believe you have friends, there's not too many of them that's going to be supportive of you, or they're not going to be by your side, you know. And I learned the hard way in relation to that because when my crime was committed, I thought that the person who actually did the crime was going to take the weight. And I actually thought, okay, I'm going to be in Rikers Island for a little while, and the person's going to take accountability and responsibility for what happened. Well, guess what? That never happened. People often talk about snitches in prison
Hmm.
or people that that tell, but they don't know the circumstances what happened behind the snitching or the telling, as they say.
Right.
Because if you tell me you're going to break a window and I'll go with you and you break the window, yes, I'm just as guilty as you. But if you just start walking and you break a window, why should I be held accountable for something you just did?
Right.
Should I tell? Should I stay quiet? You didn't tell me you was going to do it. So am I a snitch? Am I actually an informant? Am I actually what? What is that called after the fact?
Right.
You know?
So you chose not to snitch, and because you didn't tell, that's why you were incarcerated.
Yeah, I had no other choice but to plead guilty or receive 162 and a half years. You know, when you talk about people that's getting murdered and innocently, that's being murdered for a lie and for manipulation, that I was being used, and others, not just me, you
Yeah.
know, and you don't know the law, you don't know how to argue it, you know, which that's something that I also learned while I was in prison. But
Hmm.
you know, these are things that us coming from the community and not knowing anything about what the penal laws are and what the system entails in relation to what you actually face when
Right.
you are involved or when you do engage in criminal activity but not know the laws. Well, guess what? You're going to pay for it.
Right. Okay. So you were 19 years old. Um, was it? Would you say the guy you who committed the crime was your friend at the time?
I thought he was.
Right. So you had your friend. You thought he would back you up, but he kind of throws you under the bus, and now you find yourself in prison for going on for 30 years. What was going through your mind at that time?
Man, honestly, I had contemplations. I'm not gonna lie. People say, "Oh shit," I used to cry in my cell. I used to find a way to try to escape. I used to find a way to commit suicide. I used to think about anything possible that could get me out of that prison cell fast as I went in there. You know, because one of the the humiliating thing is going when you go through the prison system that people don't realize that you got to get naked in front of a man, all men, that's not even your family, that's not even your father, your
Yeah.
brothers, you
Yeah.
know, and they got to tell you to turn around and squat. You don't know what's going through their mind. You don't know what they thinking. You don't know what they're doing behind your back, because if you turn around to ask a simple question or to say something, or have a rejection or something, guess what? You're going to be a Robert Brooks, plain and simple.
What do
That's
you
just
mean by that?
what I mean by that is that you're going to get your ass whooped and you possibly could get killed.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I got beat up a few times by correction officers for not obeying direct orders. And I'm not going to lie, to some of them I didn't obey, but I didn't assault or put my hands on them, you know, but yet that's their way of intimidation. That's their way of manipulation. That's their way of telling you, this is my house. You're going to abide by my rules.
Right.
And people don't
So
realize that.
yeah. Yeah. So can you just give us more of an idea of like what what happens in prison, like from your experience that most people wouldn't know?
Oh, yeah. No, definitely. I mean, listen, it was sexual assault on male officers and mates. You know,
Officers and mates.
yes, officers
Okay.
on inmates and inmates on inmates and vice versa. That is a
Mm,
thing that goes on. It's now with the body cams and everything, a lot of that's being reduced. But in my time, it wasn't any of that. In my time, it was like he said, she said, your word against mine. Nurses, doctors, they all protect each other up there. So if you go in there and say that I got assaulted or I got sexually assaulted, well, guess what? They're gonna say you got assaulted by another inmate. You making it up. If officer didn't do that. So doctors, nurses will sign off on stuff like that and basically say, oh, he fell down the stairs. Oh no, this is how, you know, and
a
then you
lot of
don't.
cover-ups.
Yeah, a lot of cover-ups.
Yeah.
If you look at some of the footage in Robert Brooks, that right there tells enough of what goes on without people seeing, hearing, or actually witnessing. You know,
Yeah. For from an audience that doesn't know who that is, can you tell me a little bit more about about that?
yeah, Robert Brooks was uh formerly incarcerated, was doing, I believe it was a 6 to 8 year term in prison. And while he was in a medium correctional facility, he got beat up by 13 officers on video in New York City. And they shoved like a rag down his throat. They had him in a nurse's station in a clinic, put it like that. And while he was in the clinic, he was being abused, punched, kicked, and everything else for something that was just horrendous and had no meaning for it, because he was also handcuffed. So there was no reason for what they did to him. And it's actually video footage of this. And he was a black man and he was murdered, And since then, a lot of things have happened in relation to this. And
Yeah.
some of the officers got convicted. Some of them pleaded guilty, and some of them are still fighting the case.
Man, man. That's sickening to hear that things like that go on, to I don't care if you're an inmate or not. I mean, you're still a human being, and no one deserves that type of treatment. Um,
No, definitely. Let me tell you something. When I was in
yeah.
Attica, there was a family, and people could
Hmm.
Google this. I'm not making it up, because Google will tell you mostly everything. There was a family called the Preacher family. Uncle, son, father. They raped a man. He was a gay man. but they raped him. And this guy kept the sperm, send it to IG, which is the Inspector General office in Albany, New York, which is 1220 Washington Avenue, Building 2, 12226. Why I know that? Because I wrote a lot of complaints. So that's where you write your complaints to Albany. And I ain't got no screen here, no paperwork or nothing, but I can never forget that address because that's the address where you write for every complaint in Albany. You know, that's where the internal affairs, which they call them Inspector General. That's where the commissioners is at, offices and everything in Albany. But anyway, this guy actually kept the sperm and he sent it to someone. I forgot. I don't know the exact what happened with the case, but he ended up winning a lawsuit in relation to what happened to him. You know, but
Yeah.
look what he had to do.
Right. Right.
You
What
see
it
what he?
takes to just get justice. Yeah.
Yes, and it's sad, that he had to go through that, but he actually manipulated the officers into doing this where he could actually gather the evidence,
Mm-hmm.
you know? And a lot of people don't talk about that. A lot of people don't even know about this, in relation to what happened.
Right,
But
exactly. That's why I want you to, share your experiences. Because I want to, give more light to this darkness. You
oh
know.
no, definitely, it's a lot of cases, in relation it was a murder in Sing Sing with a sergeant named Michael J. Black, who's also involved in the murder and a cover up with Officer Caban and a whole bunch of guys. I can't remember the inmate's name, but these are cases and things that you hear while you're in a facility that occurs on a daily basis, you know, and nobody really talks about it because we don't really have the strength and the power to actually spread our word out there because when we in there, we cannot really reach anybody. Now it has become much easier in a way, only because, technology has advanced also in there with the tablets. And that started happening more upon my release. Remember, when I went into prison, they didn't have cell phones. They didn't have Wi-Fi. They didn't have internet. They had beepers, form of communication. So it was difficult. Now it has changed a lot, you know?
Yeah, yeah. It's like a totally different time. You know. Um. But what I want to ask you next is, you know, going through um those experiences where there's so much going against you. What kind of mindset did you have for you to be able to get through it?
I always tell people that I was locked up or incarcerated physically, not mentally. Despite me thinking about suicide attempts and escapes attempts, I said, if I'm going to be here, I got to better myself and I got to better people around me because most of the people that's around me are also going to be released. And I started to basically educating myself more and taking programs on communication and on certain things, like I said, that could better myself and those around me. Because
Okay, what made you choose communication?
that's one of the main things we lack, communication in our neighborhood because we think we know it all.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes we don't listen. We just want to speak,
Right.
So communication is like a very important foundation to everything.
Okay, so you decided to take the communication and you said to better yourself. Okay.
I'm sorry. I was trying to bring my charger up.
Oh, no
But
worries.
yeah, so so that's one of the things I took. I also joined certain classes and took certain programs. I was part of the steering committee for RTA, which is rehabilitation through the arts, which shows you and gives you a foundation on not only communication, but also public speaking and certain things that could better you as a person because you're also dealing with a lot of civilians. And these civilians came in to do volunteer work.
Mm-hmm.
If people are familiar with the movie Sing Sing, which is through RTA, that's one of the main things that help um, produce a lot of people. And believe it or not, recidivism rate for that program is 0.0.0.1. And that one is because he violated parole. But that program has proven to be successful. So I joined that program and I was part of it, you know, and as a steering committee leader, I have to lead by example in the prison population.
Yeah. Yeah. I want you to go a little bit deeper on how you said you were incarcerated physically, but not mentally. How were you able to keep your freedom mentally? Because I do a talk on mental emancipation.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I want you just to give us an idea of how you were able to free your mind.
Yeah, I'm reading, education, working out, and just basically helping those that's around because when you actually when you try to help those that's around, you're accomplishing something and you're learning from them and from yourself as you're going along. So that distracts your mind, you know.
Hmm.
And then when you're in your cell most of the time, what you're doing is either you're gonna be in a gate talking crap or you're gonna be reading certain things. So me, I started studying law because that was one of the things that I never knew, and the language of it, which is way different. And
Hmm.
also I started studying and doing plays and writing,
Hmm.
doing a lot of writing, which, we wrote a book which is called Telling Our Stories, Writing Our Lives through RTA, which is a free book they could get at rta.org, and they could request it. So that's one of the main things that kept my mind occupied, as far as being incarcerated physically as opposed to mentally. And some people ask me, how did I do it? And sometimes I'll be like, I mean, I could say it, but I still say, I don't know, you know,
Yeah.
because it's just, surreal, like in a way that you're looking at things and you be like, wow, you know, did I really do all this time? And as I spoke when we was in Albany, you heard what I said. Somebody said, damn, you don't even look like you did 30 years. I said, what the hell am I supposed to look like?
Mm. Yeah.
But it's definitely something that, I mean, I don't, how you say it to a young man, like, listen, this, get in trouble and this is how you keep your mind set. Um, this is how you keep yourself.
So really, you working your mind um, through reading, through writing, studying, and that just what was able to keep your mind active and result free.
Yeah, definitely. Sometimes I used to run, people used to be like, man, you crazy. When you ain't Claim Correctional Facility, which that's Denamora, by Plattsburgh, in June, it'd be 30 degrees up there,
Mm.
right? So you have to build yourself stronger in that facility because you have to take showers outside when it's 30 to 40 degrees with cold ass water that's coming up the hill, coming from
Wait,
the hill.
wait, 30. Wait, showers outside.
Yes, because officers used to flood the showers in the inside, which is called the bathhouse. So when you go in there and take a shower, the water be up to your knees. So what's going to happen? You're going to get fungus.
Oh man.
They're not going to give you the medical attention. So they did that intentionally for people who want to take showers inside, for they could take their asses outside and take showers on the outside.
Oh my goodness,
So,
man.
you know, they used to do stuff like that on purpose. So at the end of the day,
Yeah, why
they,
would they do those things on purpose?
well,
What's
that's that,
the
that's the way they was brought up. So, I mean, you talking about these officers walking with Confederate tattoos on their back, with people hanging from trees, tattooing their arms and all that stuff.
Oh
Uh,
man, that's sick.
No, definitely. Listen,
Yeah.
it's something that you can ask a million people that could tell you. You ask them about Clinton or Attica, and they tell you those are the worst prisons. Because remember, Attica had the biggest riot in 1971 because of the abuse that was going through in 1971 in there. And a lot of people got killed, officers and inmates,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know?
Hmm. So what were some lessons that you learned from that experience over those 30 years?
Man, one of the main lessons is, man, is don't pick your friends. Don't let your friends pick you. That's number one. And
Okay.
and two is you gotta educate yourself mentally and physically.
Right.
You know, it's it. I mean, it's people out here that still educating themselves. That's been out here in society, never been locked up, and they think things are a joke out here. But it's not that easy. It's not that easy.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. But you survived and you were freed from prison. And um can you tell me more about what led you to get involved with these community organizations after you were released?
Well, not definitely. I mean, like I said earlier, um, this is my community was something that I was destroying as a young person, and I seen so many people getting locked up and incarcerated, and things is happening in our neighborhoods, our communities, and I said to myself, when I get out, these are the things I want to do. I want to help people in need. I want to prevent people from also coming through this, especially the youth, which you explained earlier, as far as Department of Education, where I go to all high schools in all 5 boroughs and speak to kids that are not trouble and are in trouble, or possibly getting in trouble. I'm also involved with the ATI, which is the Alternative to Incarceration program at CCA, which is Center for Community Alternative, which that is not actually my job, but it is my job. And what I mean by that is that my title is Community Engagement Specialist, which deals more with adult. But guess what? Everybody deserves a piece of the good pie, as I call it, or the pandemic of goodness in relation to what I could give to my community. So to answer your question in relation to that was these are the things I want to do. This is why I took certain courses while I was in there, from reentry program. I took a course through Yale, which is Prisoners for Calculation Transition, where it's called Challenge to Change.
Mhm.
And you know, you get to accept accountability for your actions as well. And after a while I said to myself, I knew I wasn't hanging out with no damn Mormon or a person is righteous. I knew that I was hanging out with a criminal. So guess what? I got to take accountability for that. So I started
Yeah.
blaming people for that and put the blame on me because I had choices and decisions to make. And I choose not to listen to the people who was giving me that advice. So that also put some growth into my thinking. And I said, you know
Hmm.
what? When I get out, which I was supposed to get out in 2016, but the paperwork was messed up through the governor's office. Um, that didn't work out, but I still continued to do what I had to do, you know?
Right. So you took responsibility, and when you took that responsibility, that opened up the pathway for you to grow as a person. That what you mean?
Oh no, definitely, definitely.
Yeah.
When you plant a seed, you ain't gonna see no roots or anything coming out, or no grass or whatever right away. It's gonna take time, you know? And that's how it was with me. Everything was through a stage, you know.
Yeah. Tell me about that. What those stages that you went through to get to become the man that you are today?
Yeah, just base you and you know what's one of the most craziest things is when I used to sometimes see people go home. I see them going home. Hey, good luck out there. And then I see them coming back.
Mm.
And I'll be like, I don't want to be like that, you know. And then the opportunities, because there's many opportunities out there. I'm a prime example of that. When I was released, my first job was at UPS store, and I didn't know anything about technology. But you know what I was doing while I was being trained? I was recording everything, so I could go back and do everything that I had to do, from working at the cash register, from doing faxes, for sending emails, from logging stuff in that had to go to Amazon and stuff like that. But I recorded everything. So I learned from that. And then after I mastered it in less than 2 weeks, all I had to do was just get on and do it. So anyway, so these are things that we always look for excuses, but the answer is there. We just got to look for it. We just
Right.
have to keep fighting for it. We can't just give up. So I used to see, in my head, I used to see people come back into prison. And I said, I don't want to be like that. And then I used to see people do dumb shit. And I'd be like, I don't want to do that. And then I started being part of steering committee, like I told you, part of the liaison committee where I used to advocate for the prisoners and for the facility. And I started educating a lot of young kids, young men that was coming in that was my age,
Okay.
you know? And when they was being receptive to a lot of things I was telling them, a lot of them was Bloods, Crips, Latin Kings, Nietas. These are all gang members. And they
Yeah.
was being receptive to the things I was saying. I said, when I get out, this is what I have to do.
Yeah. Yeah. So what is your message to those people, to the youth especially?
I'm going to be sarcastic on this one. And sometimes sarcasm could get across people. But one thing that I tell gang members, whatever gang they're in, is there a 401k? Is there IRA?
Yeah.
Is there some insurance? Is there something you gaining by being a gang member? Are you getting a weekly paycheck, a monthly paycheck? Because the only gangs I know that get paychecks is police, NYPD, FDNY, military. You know, those are the gangs that get a check. And those are the gangs that also get retirement funds, 401k, and everything else that come along with whatever insurance they have, whatever they have in life,
Yeah. So
whatever
you
they
say if
want
you
to do.
want to be a part of something, be a part of something that's gonna build you up and give you something to fall back on. You know.
Yeah, you definitely don't want to be in a situation where you got to listen to another person tell you what to do that's not even paying you, only because he has higher rank than you. He's a bigger blood than you. He's a bigger ape or gorilla or whatever set they in. Because like I said, I used to communicate with a lot of them, or UBN or whatever, or Lion King, whatever it is. They telling you what to do and they're not even paying you, and you're doing it. They're putting a gun in your hand. And I say this, 9 to 5 is better than 25 to life. Get no
Yeah.
better than that.
That's a strong message.
When
Yeah.
you out there in the corner thinking you're selling drugs and making money, the same dudes is around the other corners calling the cops on you. When you out there in that corner selling drugs, the other guy is hating on you. Guess what? He's going to try to follow you, to try to rob you, stick you, shoot you, kill you, whatever, because he wants your spot. Or they might send a girl to set you up. Or they might lie and say, oh, this guy's a snitch. He's working with the cops. They'll find a way to get you off the streets without the cops even getting you. The
Yeah.
same people.
Yeah, just a cutthroat mentality, man. It's like they're gonna try to take you down.
And I used to hear this all the time from people. Oh, this guy told on me. Oh, this guy. So I said, he told on you because you was doing something wrong. If you ain't doing nothing wrong, nobody's going to tell on you. So get a job.
Yeah.
Get a job where even if you're making minimum wage, well, if that's not enough, get another job. And if that's not enough, learn how to save money. Learn how to spend money the right way, because we all thinking about fashion and spending and buying $200 sneakers. So if that's the case, buy stuff that's on sale, for you won't have to go out there and try to be flashy, because it's easy to live life. If you're in prison wearing the same uniform for a certain amount of time, why you cannot wear that same uniform or clothes while you're out here?
Right. Right.
All you need is the deodorant, soap, and your toothbrush to not smell every day, but you can wash your clothes every day or whatever it is, you know. But we get stuck on this thing about, yeah, well, of course we want to look nice, we want to dress, but if you're complaining about the money and you're trying to do something illegal, then when you get caught, don't complain about what you did. Take accountability for that. They snitched on you. Hey, man up. There's no street code. There's no such thing as
Yeah.
street code.
Yeah. So that's sort of the message that you've been giving through the Center for Community Alternatives. Is that the message that you've been giving the kids?
Yeah, when I speak to the youth in this sense,
Yeah.
because it's different things that I do, this is what I tell them, you know, and I always telling them, listen, you could pick up that 9mm with 11 shots. So they look at me. I said, there's nothing with 911. That's what I call the 9mm with 11 shots. Doesn't make you a lesser person, you know? If you ain't doing nothing wrong, you have nothing to worry about. Now, when I speak to the adults,
Mm-hmm.
and some of the adults have mental disabilities, which they comprehend things differently. But I
Okay.
try to, huh?
Yeah. Okay. Go on. Go
But
on.
I try to find common ground with them and get to understand, because everybody has a reason for their actions, and sometimes we don't know what they're going through, such as substance abuse,
Right.
you know, and stuff like that. So once you get to know them, you get to meet them where they're at, and you be like, is it worth it for you to really get high, where you have a chance to commit suicide without you even knowing because of the fentanyl and everything that's being put in there? Or
Right.
you smoking K2 and then you catch an illusion and you start flipping out, doing backflips or do something to someone, hurt someone. So these are things that you have to look at from all point
Right.
of view when you're dealing
Right.
with youth and adults.
Okay. Yeah, I admire the work that you're doing. Like this is very
Thank you.
important work that you do. So thank you for that. Um, the question I have for you is, how were you able to make that adjustment when you were released from prison? And like you said, when you got in, it was like beepers and stuff, and now you get out, we got the iPhone and all the other technology that we have. Um, yeah, how did you make that adjustment?
Man, I try not to act stupid
Mm-hmm.
or illiterate
Yeah.
or disabled, because there was one incident where I got out the car and my brother gives me the credit card if I could pay for the gas. I didn't know where to put the credit card in the store. So the girl's looking at me and I'm looking at her,
Mm-hmm.
and she goes, "Oh, you got to put it there." And I say, "Oh man, that's that weed I be smoking. I never got high in my life, but I
Yeah.
had to utilize. What am I gonna tell her? I just got out of incarceration.
Yeah.
I didn't know
Yeah.
where to put the credit card. So she said, "Oh, you can put it right here." So I had to like use my theatrical face and say,
You had
"Okay,
to, yeah, think on the spot, like how,
yeah,
yeah,
you
yeah,
know." So I felt like a real idiot. But that's not the only time. It was a couple other times where, how do you wash your hands in the bathroom and the lights turn on when you walk in there. Everything was like weird.
yeah. So that must have been like a shock, like you coming into this like a whole new world. How did you
Yeah.
deal with that? Yeah, like,
I'm over here waiting for paper to come out the machine, and it's not even paper, it's a blowing thing or whatever. But I feel that I have accomplished a lot in relation to adjusting the same way that I adjusted in there. I'm doing out here, because I've been out now 3 years and 2 months, you know, and I believe I have accomplished a lot, and I've learned a lot, not only through watching videos, because a lot of the answers that you're looking for is in Google, you know, a lot of the things is in YouTube. So once I was able to put the information I was looking for in there, It helped me a lot. But no matter what, you're always going to be yourself inside. You're always going to be your own natural self. And you're going to outsmart a computer or whatever, because a computer could go down, but not you unless your heart stops. So I used to look at things differently, and I watch how people do stuff, and I watch how they, how they operate in everything that I do, even from dealing with the computers at work, and getting into them and doing this and doing that. And I'm still learning. But it is culture shock because I seen people talking to themselves in the street, but I didn't know they had hearing buds,
Yeah.
AirPods.
Yeah, the AirPods, yeah.
I'm always saying, yo, these motherfuckers is all talking to themselves. But they got AirPods on. I didn't know that. And some of them you couldn't see.
Yeah.
So I'm
Yeah.
like, at first I thought it was talking
Like
to me. So I'm
what the
backing
heck
up
is
like,
going on?
yeah, like what the hell? Like, what's going on here? But, you know, the navigation thing is something that everybody, still people struggling with that. There's been out in society. So I don't feel that bad. But it wasn't too much of a culture. It wasn't so much of a shock because I used to read a lot.
Mm.
So I used to hear about certain things that was coming out. So I used to read it. And, you know, it's, if you're determined to do something, you could do anything. That's just the way I see it.
Yeah. I
You
like
know,
that. I like that.
it's no excuses, man. And some of us learn differently. Some of us learn faster. Some of us learn slower. Even me, when I learned sign language, I learned it in 6 months. You know,
Wow.
it, it was a deaf mute guy that showed up to the facility, and we started a program, started learning sign language, and I learned it in 6 months. I'm still learning. I watch videos all day when I'm on a
Yeah.
bus traveling. So, sometimes I see somebody in the street that they deaf, and I know because they wear a consulate, and I make contact. I wave them down like this because that's how you do. You wave them
Uh-huh.
like this, and then you go like this to them. That means they deaf. And then I'll be like, I speak. And then we just start a conversation.
Oh wow. That's pretty cool though.
So
Yeah.
then I'll be
Yeah.
like, oh, nice to meet you. And then, then I'll be like, oh, I learned, I need some, I'm looking for a teacher. And right away it's like, okay, so it's a third language because ASL is a language,
Oh yeah,
you know,
definitely. Yeah. Yep.
but it's how you put your mind.
Yeah, it's about the mind. Right.
That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
so what did you hold on to? Maybe you held on to something like in your mind while you were going through your prison experience. What was it that you held on to that you held on to get through the through that experience?
One officer told me, he said, when you go home, you'll be back. You're just like the rest of them. Well, guess what? In 3 weeks or maybe 4, he's right. I am going to go back, but I'm going back wearing a suit
Yeah,
to give back to the prisoners that I left behind,
that's
to
right.
show them where I'm at, what I've been doing. And I'm hoping to run into him to let him know, listen, you was right. Here's my business card in case you need help in substance
Yeah,
abuse.
that's right, man. I love that. That's what's up.
You
Yeah, man.
know,
I love that. I love
and,
that.
and to
Yeah.
let him know, and to say this, I do 2 online businesses. I sell clothes online through Poshmark, eBay, Vintage, and Mercari. And there's ways to do certain things, you know, and there's ways that you can survive out here and doing a lot of stuff. You just have to be thirsty and hungry and doing it and motivated. You get that into your system, man, you know, you prove people wrong, man, you know? And it's crazy because I was thinking about an organization in my head, proving people wrong, PPW. you know, because that's something that a lot of people should try to do is prove people wrong, especially the recidivism rate that at one time was very high is gone down a lot. And that's because parole has changed. Because before they violate you for throwing a fart,
Mm-hmm.
they violate you for curfew, they violate you for this, they violate you for smoking weed, you know? But now they're not doing that anymore. However, you know, when I see that officer, I'm gonna let him know too. This is my other business card as well. You can order stuff online from me if you want.
Yeah, how can people order stuff from you?
Well, the name of my company is called
Yeah.
Touch of Class on both eBay, Poshmark, and on the Macari and Vintage. I just changed it to. I just changed the name because I couldn't have the same name on an account because of infringement and all that stuff. I just changed the name yesterday, but I gotta get it from downstairs. My fiance have it downstairs, and I gotta get it from her.
Okay, so what was the first name?
Touch of Class.
Touch of Class?
Yes, Touch of
Touch of
Class.
Class. I like that. That's cool. Yeah, as soon as you get your other one, we'll you get
Yeah,
so
Touch of Class. My picture's there. Variety of Class.
variety of class.
Yeah, so I had to use that name for Vinted, and Macari. For Poshmark and eBay is Touch of Class.
All right, great. So you heard them. Check that out, guys. Get some nice clothes. What kind of clothes is it?
Everything, all from name brand to Y2K, from vintage stuff. Anything they're looking for, toys, home appliances, you name it, is there. If I don't have it, I'll get it.
All right, great,
Yeah.
great. So I'm getting up to my last couple of questions I have for you. Um, what gives you hope?
What gives me hope, man, is just look in the mirror every day and say, I made it. I want to see other people make it. You know, and you know what the acronyms for hope is for me, right?
What is it?
Helping other people every day.
Helping other people every day.
So
That
that's another thing. Let me tell you something. I wake up every morning at 4:30 in the morning. I leave at 5:50 from Jersey to downtown Brooklyn, and from downtown Brooklyn, depending where I go, all 5 boroughs. That's what I bring to everybody. That hope.
man. So you're in the right place. You are a voice of hope, and I love that.
Definitely,
Um,
man.
and the last question I have for you today is, what would you like to say to someone who is struggling and looking for hope?
I would say, man, you don't need to look at a mirror. If you're looking at me right now, you see that hope, and that's the hope I want to give you. Because if I can make it, you can make it anywhere. And if you're struggling out here, any struggle out here in the streets is better than any great day being behind bars. And believe me when I tell you, being out here is a blessing and is a privilege, and make the best of it. Because not too many people get second chances, man.
Yes, yes. Well, this Eliot Lopez, thank you so much for joining our show. And sir, you are a voice of hope. So thank
Definitely,
you.
man. I
Thank you,
appreciate you
man.
having me too, and the people that are listening as well. Um, you can also contact me at Eliot Lopez 990 at gmail.com. Or even if you decide to give me a call at 929-678-3640, 929-678-3640. You know, and if you need somebody to talk to and you need that HOPE, you know, I'm here. I'm a good listener. I'm a good helper. And most importantly, I'm a good leader.
Thank you. Thank you for that, man. That's what it's all about. That's what this podcast is all about, man. Just being there for each other,
Definitely.
sharing these stories. So thank you for being brave, sharing that personal story. And I hope and I pray that someone out there listening has gained something from your wisdom that you've shared with us today. So I just
Yeah,
want to thank
definitely.
you for that.
Everything here, man, that's being said is real. You know, it's it's. I mean, if people is not aware, they can easily Google me and put my first name, which is Eliot with one L, and last name Lopez, 1993, and they could Google my case and they could see that I was a rising star as well. I had a scholarship to play on basketball. I met General Colin Powell in 1990, 91, I'm sorry. Which he was the first black Joint Chief Staff of the United States Army. I'm in the front page of the New York Times. And your life could just take a turn, man, by making bad decisions and choices and by not choosing your friends the correct way. So I'll tell you guys out there, man, that if you have to ask your friend if he has a gun in the car, he's not your friend. Because you shouldn't ask no friend that. You should know who you're hanging out with. You should know who you're gonna be with. You should know who you're gonna go out with. You know? And that eliminates also a burden on your parents, on your community, and on the victim's family. Because you don't know who you're gonna affect. When you affect someone, you don't only affect yourself, you affect your family, your community, and victims as well. So always think twice before doing anything dumb, stupid, because that's what I call it, you know, and stay focused.
Yeah, that's the key. You gotta stay focused. My cousin always said, my older cousin always said, gotta stay focused, man. Gotta
That's
stay
right.
focused. But
Yeah.
it's true. It's so true. Well, that's a wrap. This has been another episode of Voices of Hope, and I'm your host, Omar Kenyatta Clark. Until next time, let's rise. Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of Voices of Hope. Your time and attention mean the world, and we hope today's conversation has inspired and encouraged you. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe so you never miss a moment of hope. We're all part of this community, and your voice matters. If you're ready to share your own story of resilience and become a voice of hope, reach out to me directly at omarkenyattaclark@gmail.com. I'd love to hear from you. And of course, stay tuned for our next episode. We've got more powerful stories and inspiring voices coming your way, and I can't wait for you to be a part of it.